Good afternoon. Hey, Paul, how are you today?
Hey, Shawn, what's going on, man?
Not much. Appreciate you jumping on. It looks like we've got a ton of participants starting to pop on here. So, really excited to have you. I think that now is the perfect time to have you come on and speak a little bit about where artificial intelligence is at in the marketing and the lead gen space, and really overall where organizations can find opportunities in their business to create efficiency and maximize this technology. So for the audience today, guys, we're going to frame this up with Paul's going to spend about 25 minutes going through a nice course that he gives, and then we're going to actually get into some back and forth, and he'll answer questions live. And then we're going to open it up to you in the audience and have you guys ask him questions as well. So, Paul, would you please introduce yourself, and then you're free to go ahead and take it from there.
Thanks, Shawn. It's great to be with you all. So I'm Paul Roetzer, the founder and CEO of Marketing AI Institute. Some people may know me better from my days as a HubSpot partner. So I started PR 2020 in 2005, which became HubSpot's first partner agency. Back in 2007, I since sold that agency and focus my time today on artificial intelligence and do a lot of public speaking, teach courses, run events. Everything is related to artificial intelligence, though. So we got a lot to cover. As Shawn said, I'm going to talk for maybe 20, 25 minutes. We'll leave plenty of time for questions, so get those fired up. I'll check out the chat and the Q&A once I get done talking here, but I know Shawn and his team will be watching there. If you need anything, just reach out in the chat. So the basic premise I teach everyone, if you're new to artificial intelligence, is you don't have to go back to school and get a degree for this. You don't have to spend months or years trying to comprehend it. You can actually pick up the majority of what you need to know in a pretty short amount of time, a few days, a couple weeks, if you're focused on trying to learn the fundamentals. And the key thing to know right away is this is just smarter technology. So if you've bought, CRM software, sales software, social media, analytics, advertising, whatever it is, if you've bought software before, you're just buying smarter software that can assist you in doing your job, make it more efficient, more productive. So it's been a really interesting time for me personally, certainly for the industry. I started the Marketing Institute in 2016. It was a slow go to convince people that AI mattered and that it was going to change the industry. For a number of years, we put a lot of energy into trying to kind of wake the industry up to AI, and then ChatGPT hit November 30th of 2022, and that pretty much took care of the need for awareness in the industry. It's dramatically changed our business. It's dramatically accelerated the growth of our audience and the people interested in this topic. And I see it as both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is people woke up to AI and they realized, wow, there's this thing out there that we need to figure out. The curse is most people think they just need to figure out ChatGPT or AI writing tools. And that is literally just the surface level of artificial intelligence. AI as a discipline is 80 years old. I mean, the ideas of AI being able to do the kinds of things it's doing started in the 1950s. It just didn't fulfill that promise for a really, really long time. And then all of a sudden it did. And that has created a lot of complexity now for marketers to try and sales professionals and service professionals and business leaders to try and figure out what is this technology and what can we do about it. And what doesn't help is it's accelerating really, really quickly. So this is October 17th, about 45 days before ChatGPT came out. This is from Sequoia, a tweet from Sonia Huang at Sequoia, where they had 30 generative AI companies on their application landscape. A week later, now still a month before ChatGPT, they were up to 100 generative AI applications on their landscape. A month later, still a couple weeks before ChatGPT emerged, CB Insight had 250 generative AI companies on their landscape. My best guess is by this point in late April 2023, just 5 months later or so, there's probably 2,500 of these vendors, and by the end of this year, there'll be at least 10,000. So the space is rapidly expanding. It's creating all kinds of amazing tools that we can all use, but it's also creating massive complexity in our buying process. So the key when I say like ChatGPT was just the tip of the iceberg, this is an excerpt from a post that Sam Altman wrote, who's the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI. Um, he wrote this in 2021. It was called Moore's Law for Everything. And so you can see in that second paragraph, he was laying out where this was all going, but no one was listening at the time. So ChatGPT, when it came out in 2022, was 2-year-old technology. So Sam already knew what they had. He already knew what they were going to be releasing. And he also knew that the world wasn't ready for any of it. So they were trying to give people a heads up, like, hey, this stuff's going to get really, really good at thinking, creating things, understanding humans and our language and reasoning. And those are the things that have really enabled this massive leap forward with GPT-4 that we've seen and some of these other foundational language models that are driving a lot of this generative AI innovation. It's important to understand what's happening in the context of your career and your company. And so a lot of times I'll say your life is AI assisted and your marketing will be too. I've been saying this actually for about 5 years. It just is more relevant today than it was in recent years. So if you think about your consumer and professional life, you're surrounded by tools that are powered by artificial intelligence. But for years, you probably never even really thought about the fact that AI was what was making all of this possible. But in the last 10 years, all of these innovations have led to the ability to personalize music and shows and movies and understand your requests through voice and respond to you and personalize your social media pages and predict, best way to get to destinations and predict the next word in a sentence with Google Smart Compose. Like all of these things were there. People just weren't aware of what was making all of this possible. And so now where we are is we've found ourselves at the base of this exponential growth curve where the AI technology is moving so quickly that it's really hard to imagine where we're going to be in 5 years or even 5 months, because the tech is getting so much better. And so a tangible way to think about this is when you take all the tactical things you do each day as a marketer, sales professional, business leader, and assume that AI will be there assisting you in at least 80% of those activities within 2 to 3 years. It may happen faster. It may not be evenly distributed. So if you're in, say, financial services and you don't have access to ChatGPT and you're not allowed to use some of these tools for security purposes, then you're not maybe going to see this 80%. But if you're a marketing agency professional, or if you're in a SaaS business or things like that, like this may happen by the end of 2023. So the AI technology is going to be capable of assisting you in everything. It's just whether or not you have access to it and you're allowed to use it. And the reason it's going to be so prevalent in everything we do is it's not just those thousands of generative AI applications that are being built. The major platform companies are infusing AI right into their platforms. So if you use HubSpot, for example, ChatSpot is being developed to bring these kind of capabilities right into your HubSpot experience. If you're a Salesforce customer, they introduced Einstein GPT in February. It's still in a closed beta, but you'll probably by mid to late end of 2023 have these GPT capabilities, these generative AI capabilities of image and video and text and audio and code, and all of these capabilities are going to be baked right into Salesforce. And then we see that the same thing happening with Google. If anybody caught the 60 Minutes episode this past Sunday, it was all about Google Bard and their AI ambitions. And so they're infusing their generative AI capabilities right into Google Workspace. So again, by later 2023, you'll be in a Google Doc or Google Slides or Gmail or Google Sheets, and these generative AI capabilities are just going to be baked right into the product. You won't have to go get third-party applications if you don't want to. You'll just have these things right there. The same with Microsoft. Satya Nadella has said that their mission or objective is to turn every industry into an AI-first industry. And so you're seeing this now with Microsoft 365 Copilot. They're going to bake their generative AI capabilities through GPT-4 and OpenAI right into slides like PowerPoint and Outlook and Docs and Excel and all these things. You're just going to have these AI capabilities at your fingertips. So that's what's going to escalate the adoption of AI and also the awareness of AI, where it's just going to be readily available to everybody in an organization, whether they've been trained how to use these tools or not. So what is artificial intelligence? It's really good to have a baseline understanding. My favorite definition is it's the science of making machines smart. And this comes from Demis Hassabis, which again, if you watch the 60 Minutes episode, you can go watch it for free, by the way. It's available on the CBS site. Demis is one of the people that was featured in that series or that segment. And so Demis defines it as the science of making machines smart. Replace machines with software, and it's a lot easier to understand. Basically, all the software that you use is going to get smarter. It's going to learn from data, and it's going to make predictions and be able to take actions without you having to do anything. So at a really high level, artificial intelligence is just the term for the tools and technologies that make machines or software smart. The primary subset is machine learning. That is the software of the machine taking data in and then learning from it. So if I'm going to send an email campaign and I send it to 100,000 people, the AI through machine learning has the ability to figure out open rates, click rates, conversions, and then make some predictions about how you should change the campaign next time to improve those things. So the machine just learns from data. And then deep learning is trying to give the machine human-like capabilities of vision, language, understanding, reasoning, things like that. So a few just kind of high-level ways to think about this. At the language application level in AI, we have natural language processing and natural language generation. Processing is the machine learning how to understand human language because it doesn't know human language. It knows zeros and ones. It knows bits of data. So you're trying to give it the ability to see a sentence, so it's understanding the sentence being written in this example email, and then be able to make a prediction about what words should come next. So while ChatGPT was the wake-up call for the world about AI, if you think about your life over the last 5 years, many of you have probably had Gmail Smart Compose, where it was finishing sentences for you. It's the same basic concept. It predicts words in a sequence, or in your text messaging where it recommends replies, or in Facebook where it recommends replies. All of that was AI. Learns language, makes predictions about words. You see this in text summarization, you see it in transcription of spoken word, translation. These are all forms of artificial intelligence. Now, GPT-4, what made this really unique when it emerged a couple months ago, or I guess it was just last month, hard to believe it's only been 5 weeks. But what you'll see here is it's insanely creative, which is really weird to process. But this is an example of a use case where I gave it a prompt, write me a clever out of office email that explains I'm going to be slow to reply to emails because I'm traveling for a series of talks about artificial intelligence. And if you just read the first paragraph, like, I hope this digital missive finds you thriving in the realms of human endeavor. And it goes on and says, my response times to your electronic correspondence may experience delays akin to the speed of a tortoise browsing the internet on a 56K modem. It wrote this in like 7 seconds, this whole thing. Like, I'm a writer. I could have spent a day and probably not written a paragraph like that creative. So that to me is where things just start to change. Like, you realize these AI are capable of things that many of us didn't think they'd really be capable of. And we also saw this happening in around this time in 2022. So about a year ago was when the world first got exposed to DALL-E 2 from OpenAI, the image generation technology. And this is actually Image Gen, which is from Google, which has not been publicly released yet, but it shows the same basic premise that you give a prompt, you give words that describe what you want, and the AI creates it. And it's not stock photography, it's not just stitching together some images, it's actually from a pixel level up building an original image based on your prompt. This is expanding now beyond just images to video. So runwayml.com is the URL if you're interested. Runway is a really interesting generative AI company, and they have just this year introduced Gen 1, which was video to video. So you could record a video and then transfer that style onto another video. And then just to March 20th, so just a month ago today, they introduced Gen 2, which is text to video. So the same way DALL-E 2 works, where I give it a text prompt and it gives me an image, now I can give Gen 2 from Runway a text prompt and it gives me a video. Really kind of hard to comprehend. And it's even harder to realize that this is all like very, very early advancements of this technology. Like, we are just at the beginning of what this tech is going to be able to do. The other key area, like kind of categorically, that you should pay attention to is the ability for these things to make predictions, whether it's forecasting performance, finding patterns in data, personalizing emails and outreach, making recommendations about content on your site or which leads to prioritize. All of these things are about predicting outcomes and behavior, and AI excels at those things. So now we have a basic understanding of what it is and kind of the categorically the applications of it. How do you find use cases in your daily workflow? The way I explain this to people is there's four main variables to whether or not you have a potential use case for AI. So if you think about all the things you do every day and you look at each task and say, okay, is this a data-driven task? So if I'm going to send an email, am I using data to help me do this, to help me figure out what to write and who to send it to and when to send it? Or should I be using data? The second is it repetitive? Do we do the same 10 steps every time we do this task? If the answer is yes, you may have a use case for AI. Are you trying to make a prediction about an outcome or behavior? And then the last one is, are you generating text, image, video, audio, or code? If you're doing any of these things, then there is a decent chance someone has built an AI tool to help you do it. So if we just look at sales and we look at tasks on the left and the bullets, and we look at some sample vendors on the right, these are all things that fit those criteria, and there are many tools built to do each one of them. So the idea is that you try and find these things that are repetitive, data-driven, generative, or predictive, and then look for tools to help you do it. So that leads us to how do you actually get started and find these things? There's two main ways to do it. The first is problem-based, the second is use case. And I'll spend a moment on each of these. Our book has an entire chapter dedicated to this, so you could kind of go learn it from there. We do have extra courses that are just built specifically around these things, but I'll give you kind of a high level at the moment. So in the problem-based model, this is more, I would think, like a director level and above approach. So these are the people who are trying to solve bigger problems. So you're looking at something that is a known pain point that you historically haven't been able to solve or optimize fully. And you're trying to say, is there a smarter way to do this? So an example would be, we fell short of our sales qualified lead goal for the third straight quarter. And then with this problem statement, you want a value statement. If we can solve this, this is worth $250,000 a quarter to us. And what that does is it helps you realize, what are you willing to invest to figure this out? So if the problem you're trying to solve is a $5,000 a year problem, you don't need to go worrying about finding AI to do this. If it's a $500,000 a year problem, you absolutely are going to invest the time and energy and maybe some additional resources monetarily and human resources to solve for it. And these are some example business challenges that AI may be able to help you solve more efficiently than you traditionally have. The one you can do today that I think of more as the practitioner model, like the applied AI model, is you just look for quick win pilot projects that are very specific in terms of the use case and have a high probability of working. Like, you don't want to go wasting a bunch of time and money on these things that they're not going to actually help you. So in this case, you're making an assumption that AI tech could be applied to intelligently automate a use case. And you're trying to say, well, how valuable would that be to us? And so all you do here, and we have a free download of this on our book page, just marketingaibook.com. So you can go get the free template there, or you can build one yourself, where what we look at is categories. So we have advertising, analytics, blogging, direct marketing, whatever. You just put your own categories in there. What are the tasks that we do specifically related to that category? How often do we do it? How much time do we spend on it? What tech are we currently using to do it? How much does that tech cost? You could put in a labor cost as well if you want to see a total cost. And then what is the value to intelligently automate this? And this is often just a really subjective, quick feel of, wow, we're spending 200 hours a month writing blog posts. If we go get an AI writing tool and it can reduce that to 120 hours a month or 100 hours a month or 80 hours a month, that's almost a full-time equivalent employee. That's really valuable to us. And I'm not saying you fire that employee. I'm saying you just increased your ability to produce outputs greater. So you want to start just kind of looking at cost and time saved, and that will help you, really get it. So repeat the address. The workbook download is marketingaibook.com. and I can put that link in afterwards. Somebody asked that question. If you just scroll like halfway down through the page, there's a download there for this workbook and a questionnaire to ask vendors. Okay, so how do you buy tech? Once you've got your use cases, and let's say it's an AI writing tool or a sales assistant or a lead scoring tool or whatever is going to be valuable to you, what you want to do again is remember, you're just trying to find smarter tech. You're trying to say, here's what my role looks like today. These are the processes I go through, how much time I spend on it. If I buy your AI software, how much time is that really going to save me? What's my job going to look like tomorrow? And so the big question we ask is, what is the machine going to do? And what will the marketer still do, or the salesperson, or the business leader, or whatever you want to fill in the blank there. So we created this marketer to machine scale that basically looks and says, okay, I'm going to buy an AI writing tool, a generative AI tool, and it's going to help me in these 3 use cases. I'm going to do content summarization, transcription, and blog post drafts. Let's say those are my use cases. What I want to do is go through each of those use cases and say, okay, like once this gets fully operational, I'm going to be about 50-50. Like the AI is actually going to be able to assist me in half of this work. I'll give you a real practical example. I just was playing around with today. We, for our podcast each week, we pick like 3 big topics and then like 5 or 6 other topics. And we actually go through and read all this stuff. And then we do a summary of each for our kind of the script going in. Well, you can actually use GPT-4's browsing extension, say, write me a 10-bullet summary of this article, and it'll do it instantly. Like we probably spend about 1 to 2 hours prepping for the show with these outlines. We could probably save half that time by just like throwing those in there and doing it. Now, not a massive savings, but it's about level 2. Like it's going to do the work for us. Now, I don't need it to do the whole thing. I don't need level 4. Like I still want to make sure it's accurate and make sure it didn't make stuff up and put our own twist on it. But generally, like it's going to get me halfway there. That's the kind of stuff you're looking for. You're just looking for a bunch of like quick win things that we know are going to work. And so again, the key here is level 1 and level 2 is really all you're looking for. Level 3 is great. Like the generative AI tools there are some that can get you to level 3. Level 4 isn't the goal. We're not trying to completely remove humans from the loop. And most of this tech has no possibility of removing humans from the loop. You're going to need the humans there. So the main takeaway here is a little bit of AI can go a long way to reducing costs. The podcast is marketingaishow.com. I can get you a link to that, but it is on the site. I saw Shawn drop marketingainstitute.com in the chat for everyone. You can the podcast is there under resources, the blog, all this stuff right under there. Okay, and then just your learning journey. Like, what do you do with this information? So the way I think about this is there's 2 main reasons you would even be attending a webinar like this. The first is you're trying to understand this stuff individually, and maybe you're an independent contractor, a freelancer, or maybe you're just a team member within a corporation or an agency, and you're just trying to figure this stuff out for yourself. So that will guide you forward. Like, how do you improve your own productivity? How do you maybe play a role in driving change in an organization? How do you advance your career? The second aspect is you want to look at this for your team or your own company. And so now you're trying to say, okay, like, how do we prioritize where to start with this across our whole team? Maybe you have a team of 20 marketers, and you're trying to say, do we start with product marketing? Do we start with event marketing? Do we start with lead gen? Like, where do we focus our energy on infusing AI? And so that way, once you have a deeper understanding, now you can start to make smarter decisions around how to prioritize this. And I'll offer a couple of resources. Now, these are paid resources. The Marketing Institute has tons of free resources, and if that's all you need, just go grab those. But we do have this new Piloting AI for Marketers series that we launched in December of last year. So it was post-ChatGPT. And it was designed to be a step-by-step learning path. And so what we've seen is a lot of corporations are actually buying this for their teams and then making it like the professional development track for them to get kind of quickly updated with AI. It's about 8 hours of content. There's 17 courses, but it really walks you through basically everything you would need. And then it has a professional certificate at the end. So there is a Quantum 100 code here if anyone's interested in that. Again, it is the paid version of kind of the next step, but there's plenty of free versions as well if you're trying to really just get started. But pilotingai.com is the URL for that. And then if anybody wants to go to a full-blown event for this, we do have the Marketing AI conference coming up July 26th to the 28th in Cleveland at the Convention Center right by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And again, there's a Quantum 100 code there that'll get you $100 off of that event. So with that, I'll offer a couple quick final thoughts and then welcome Shawn back in if you all want to get any questions fired up. My main takeaway here is the future is marketer plus machine, and the future is now. Like, this stuff's not going anywhere. You really need to figure out how to infuse it into your career. It's not always fun to think about. Like, it's really hard sometimes when we say, like, me as a writer, that honestly, sometimes GPT-4 is a better writer than me, and probably a lot of time. And that's a hard thing to accept. My wife is an artist. Like, I have a family of fine arts majors. Like, I don't really want AI to be really good at this stuff, but it is. And so I'm just trying to figure out what that means and what the future looks like. So what I would say is, don't wait for the world to get smarter around you. Go figure this stuff out now and become a change agent in your business, in your own career, and sort of like control your own destiny with this stuff. So with that, I will turn it back over to Shawn and have some conversation.
Yeah, man, that is so enlightening. I have listened to you speak several times on YouTube. I've actually done the course and I've went through the book, but that's what made us reach out. And when I was going through the book, I guess my mind was just blown. And we do sales automation and marketing automation for a living all day, every day. But the level where things are headed is phenomenal. Could you give us a view of what you see in 12 and 24 months? I don't even know if anybody can see a whole lot further than that,
Yeah.
right? What do you see out there? What's it going to be like?
It is very hard to predict, obviously, but there's some things we know. One is, if you've used GPT-4, like, if you haven't, do it. Like, it's really hard to comprehend this stuff without doing it. That was, to me, was the turning point last fall, was that I could give a talk and people could go try DALL-E 2. And you instantly are like, wow, how did it do that? Like, there's that moment where you realize this tech is very real. And so what ChatGPT did, and why it became such a runaway success, is it gave everyone the ability to see kind of the magic of this stuff for themselves. So the thing, though, is if you have used GPT-4, that technology, when it came out in November, was 7 months old. They spent 7 months on basically building security into it, alignment with human values, and guardrails for it not to go haywire. So there's more powerful tech, one, that they didn't release that they already had, two, that is being built. The one very reasonable assumption is ChatGPT will become what's called multimodal. So right now, ChatGPT just does text. It understands text and it generates text. Moving forward, multimodal would mean image, audio, video, that it can learn from images, videos, and audio files, and that it can generate images, videos, and audio files. So almost imagine, the simplest way to probably think about this is DALL-E meets ChatGPT, that you would be able to be in DALL-E, say, hey, or ChatGPT, write me an outline for this article, and it does it. Say, generate a few illustrations that could go with this, and it does it. Read this article and save it as an audio file in this person's voice, and it does it. That's what I mean by multimodal. That is absolutely where that's going. The other thing that has become very obvious is what are called action transformers, the ability for these things to take action, not just do it. So an example there would be, I'm going to Italy in June. Plan me an itinerary for Italy in these 3 cities, make it family friendly and focus on X, Y, and Z. And it would like build me an itinerary. Then I could say, okay, book me the best flights. And it could actually go and like book flights. And it could like, okay, give me a bus ticket while I'm here. And it could go to the website. Taking action on your behalf is where it's also going. So it's very fair to assume that both of those things would be reality for the average person to be able to use within probably the next 12 months.
Well, what I think is really phenomenal too is the ability to layer. So even just, let's do something simple that everybody here could execute right now, which is if they went into Chat GPT and said, hey, go ahead and give me a outline on a persona for a chief executive officer in the banking industry of this size, and give me 10 traits. And then here could be the 10 traits, right? Or it could be the 10 needs. Then you could say, now address a marketing solution for each one of those needs. And then you could say, now create 3 marketing emails for each one of those solutions, and keep layering the knowledge and the AI on top of itself. So if you think about the theory of, creating a marketing plan, identifying an ICP, identifying a persona, writing out content, planning it out, building it out, that could be a multi-day thing that now all of a sudden you could have a really 85%-ish rough draft in just a few minutes. And so
it's an insanely good strategy assistant. I would, if people haven't tested what you just explained, go test it. It is remarkably good at being a strategic assistant.
really good at outlines. And almost everything that you're investing time in, there's a tool. Now there's a little bit of a balance between the ROI on your time of how much time do I have to invest to learn it versus what am I going to save. But as a quick example, most of us have heard of deep fakes. So a few months back, I'm on Synthesia. And if you spend 15 minutes talking into the prompts, it can take a video of you, and then basically you become the avatar instead of the computer generated one they already have. Now your team, instead of you going to a studio and creating content, right, for marketing or for your podcast, your team could put prompts in or could put the language in, and then it'll have you doing it. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty dang close. And so I see in a year or two, that's going to be super strong. So instead of having no content or having to go spend hours and hours in a video studio, now all of a sudden you're going to say, give me 10 trends for marketing AI. Give me some, a 2-minute speech for each. And then you would put those into the prompt, and then your video that you've already recorded, your team could build all of that without you ever recording 1 second of video and save hours and hours, plus have the additional content. So I digress, but those are a couple of like real life examples of either augmenting things you're not doing today very well, or being able to save a whole bunch of time if you are currently doing them.
Another cool use case, but again, the audio one I think throws people off. A lot of marketers are like, what would I need the audio gen for? Think about this use case, which we're planning to, we haven't done yet. You can synthesize your own voice, infinitely doable now. So it'll sound just like Shawn, just like me, whatever. Now you could get into the dark side of all this. Like, yes, you can do deep fakes now, but imagine accessibility on your website where there's a button to listen to every blog post. So you actually create an audio file of every blog post, but it's actually a synthetic version of me or Mike or whoever the author is reading a post they never read. You just feed them the post. Totally doable right now. That's where we're at with this tech.
So years ago, if you wanted to write a book and you had to go get it published and do all these things, now you could quickly create a book on the text side. Then you could synthesize the voice and there, the audio, and now you could have an Audible in no time, really.
If you were allowed to. I tried to do that. We weren't allowed.
But I think
the Actors Guild wouldn't let us.
Yeah, the technology is there though, right?
It is there.
So
if you want to publish through the actual publisher, but yes, the tech is there. And to your point, when I tried to do it in early winter 2022, it needed 40 hours of training data to synthesize my voice. Microsoft, I think, came out in February, something that can synthesize your voice in 3 seconds. So like exponential. Exponential is like, it's hard to imagine what exponential means. That's an example of it.
Wow. You brought up Copilot, and because it's a standard program that people work in, but everybody's worked in the Microsoft Office suite at some point in their career, right? So PowerPoint, Word, Excel, the ability to take, a Word document, you were with your team, you were brainstorming, you were getting everything into a Word document. One, you could quickly say, improve this document, improve it. And then you could say, now create a 12 slide presentation aimed at executives. And you could do all of that in maybe seconds, maybe minutes.
Yeah.
Something that would
nobody's ready for it. No company I've talked to has a clue what that actually means to them. Like everybody in the organization having access to do this. It's a wild thing to actually think about, and it's on our doorstep.
What's interesting, so let's go to the workforce challenges that have faced our country in the last 10, 15 years, right? It's been hard to get great employees. Every CEO we talk to, talks about that. Now imagine being able to work with a virtual assistant from Mexico or from India, and you could teach them how to take these prompts. And now somebody for $2,000 a month, as an example, can put out 5 times the work of somebody used to pay $8,000 a month to put out 1 times that work. So now all of a sudden, when you look at, I guess, the productivity cost per bit, if you want to call it that, it becomes very scalable versus trying to train them manually could be a challenge. But if you can create structure and processes around the prompts. So that kind of leads me to the next question, which is, all right, this is cool. How do we get good at prompts? Where do we go learn how to do that piece? Because that seems to be pretty dang important here.
I open Twitter, there's so many threads from people of prompt guides and prompt libraries and prompt templates, and it's literally everywhere. I mean, just go to Twitter and search prompting, like best Gen AI prompts or whatever. I know writer.com recently released like a prompting guide. We have a session at Macon taught by Jim Stern that's going to be all about prompt, like prompting 101. So yeah, and then the Gen AI companies themselves, like if you're a Jasper customer, they got prompt guides on Jasper. So I would say just look, they're everywhere. And I will say I'm sometimes a little bit like, I don't know, condescending is not the right word, but it was the thing that everybody jumped onto. Like all these people who had no idea what they were talking about with AI just started writing like prompt guides for this and prompt guides for that, just become thought leaders in the space. So it kind of like got diluted really, really fast. So you have to be careful with just like, there's a lot of BS out there is what will happen when someone sees an opportunity to make money on this stuff. But at the same time, it is an art form right now. And if you get good at knowing how to write these prompts, the outputs are dramatically better. So find people who really know what they're talking about, who actually have done this, didn't just go into GPT-4 and say, write me a top 20 prompt guide or whatever, which is what most of them did. People who've actually like experimented with this, find those people, and you'll learn all kinds of really cool ways to get more out of these systems.
That's awesome. So we had Mandy ask, Shawn or Paul, do you have any examples of clients using AI effectively right now? Could you just share like 3 impressive business cases you've seen someone pull off in the last 30, 60 days?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not an agency anymore, so I don't have any clients. But I mean, I can tell you what, like at the Institute, I'll give you a couple of real practical examples our team does. And we have a team of 5 that functions probably as a team of 10 or 15, like in terms of what we achieve each day. Just on the content side, so we have a podcast we do every week. We used to pay an outside production team to produce that podcast. We don't do that anymore. We produce it ourselves. We clean up the files with the script. So just descript.com is the main one we use, descript.com. So once we record the file in Zoom, we export the transcript, we import that into, so the transcription is done by AI. We export that into Descript. Descript then kind of cleans it up, does speaker identification. We then go through and do a human labor edit over it, but largely that's done by AI. Then we create the files, then AI helps us create segment clips of those, which all then get put on YouTube. So it like amplifies the value of what we're producing. Then we can take each excerpt of the transcript and do content summarization. So you can take the transcript, drop it into GPT-4, say, summarize this for me in 10 points. It can then do a summarization of it that we can then use as a blog post or as talking points for the podcast or whatever we're going to use it for. Social media shares, we'll say write 10 social media shares based on this transcription. So basically our podcast is like half AI now. And so we've gone from probably, 8 to 10 hours per episode, probably 2 to 3 or so for the whole thing. And then again, the use case I mentioned earlier of using AI to summarize the news to then create more efficient transcripts. So that's just one very practical example of what we're doing as a very small team. And the podcast has become not only, like, if you think about the podcast is basically like the key to our whole content strategy, because it creates 4 videos every time for YouTube. It creates 4 blog posts. It's based off of LinkedIn content that I create that gets summarized in there. It creates social shares. Like our whole strategy basically is fed off of the podcast that AI is the basis for, in essence.
So in theory, not that you've done this or going to do this, but in theory, if you used the video technology we talked about, you could actually have somebody in your office create all this, put the video in, that could actually be the podcast. It wouldn't have even really been you. Then it would do all the other stuff, and like something that used to take hours and hours or days worth of work could be pretty much automated.
People are doing it. It's in practice. People are actually doing it. We won't do it, obviously, but no, I mean, the GPT-4 can write an entire podcast script better than most script writers right now. Like if you give it 3 topics, say write me a 20-minute script on these 3 topics, it'll do it. I just did it this morning. I just experimented that exact use case before we did this webinar, just to see if it was any good at it. And then, yeah, you can feed it to synthetic versions of whoever you create, and you could create a video and audio podcast with almost zero human involvement.
Paul, we are really talking to you, right?
It is me.
Which is what I would expect the AI to say. No,
yeah, really.
People have joked, with the automated outreach and text messages and all these things are like, is this really you? And even things like voicemail drops, and there's just so many efficiency cuts. On the sales side, one area that we see is right now, the technology we use to make outbound calls has just come up with a new piece where they've done analytics on millions of dials. So if you're in this game, the less time you have to wait between calls, the better, right? The more efficient you get. They've got that all set up now where they'll call people based on basically an answer ready score, right? So it already was dialing 5 or 6 lines at once. Then it senses when someone's picked up the phone, and now it's dialing numbers based on an answer ready score. So if you think about a call blitz in the sales world, that you might make 150 calls in a day, and you're going to get, let's say you got 8% of those to pick up. So you get 12 pickups, means you're getting like a conversation and a half an hour, right? Now we're already getting 15 to 20 conversations an hour, and this could accelerate that forward to maybe 25 or 30. At some point, you can only have so many, right? If they're legitimate conversations, you have to talk to somebody. But I see a point where a salesperson is going to sit down, say, here's who I want to go after today. Here's what I'm thinking, or maybe even ask, who should I go after today? Who is the ICP that would buy HubSpot, for example? It's going to load all that in, say, statistically speaking, we think you should speak with the chief marketing officer of an SMB company between here and here. Here's 1,000 cell phone numbers. Put it into this dialer. You sit there. That dialer will do AI. Think about how much that would cut out from prospecting, list building, the marketing piece, because we already have it set up where as soon as there's a call outcome, we can kick off automated nurtures. I saw that early in your in your presentation, but
yeah, what you described, there's no way that isn't the future. Like you're just going to get in and basically hit the magic button, and it's going to automatically prioritize, start dialing, refilter it throughout the day based on different signals. Like totally.
What I like though, right, the one key piece there, it's not going to automate yet, is it's given that human being more at bats. So those folks that have great skills and invest the time and energy, be the best at marketing or the best at sales, that take them up the human value chain. And you're not going to have to keep underperformers anymore because your great sales performers only had so much time, for instance. Now you're just going to say, how do we just completely, it's like predictive revenue coming together with AI. How do we just break up this job, have the best people, have the best resources, automate these key areas? We have 5 of them, which is target, attract, nurture, convert, and wow. And now your sales guy is just going to sit there and have, I probably can't even fathom, maybe 15 to 20 times the overall at bats that they might get today, if not more. And so you'll have 5 sales guys that do $5 million a year instead of trying to have 40 salespeople to do the same 25 million in revenue.
Yeah, and it can be a coach as well, so the AI can actually listen to all the calls and in real time provide guidance on how to do better on the next one.
Well, or like we use chorus.ai and we have trackers in there. So if we say, create a ticket for, it can catch that tracker, create the ticket in our HubSpot. Now it's an automated system on the servicing of the client too. I don't even know if I'd call that AI as much, but it's automated, and it's definitely a time saver, and more importantly, it keeps you from losing track of stuff. So a couple of questions we have here is, what is the best natural language understanding text analytics AI technology you are aware of?
Yeah, that's pretty specific, drilling in. I probably have to know the use case a little bit more to give a really good answer, but I would just say natural language understanding, like text extraction, text analysis, AWS has models for that. Like, I don't know a specific company, so I'll just give some model. So AWS has some pre-trained models to do that exact thing. Hugging Face is like a repository for these open models. There's open models there to do it. I don't know like what vertical we're talking about or what specific kind of analytics. Like, I couldn't give you like an exact vendor, but if you just do a Google search for AI for natural language understanding for this, you'll probably find some sample vendors to look at.
So would you be able to use AI effectively if you're a marketing team of one? I'm in control of all of our social media campaigns and blogs, but we currently use other assets for help as well. Would we be able to eliminate that with AI?
Decent chance. Yeah.
Without knowing all the details, I would tend to agree on that one.
Those are all things that it can definitely do. You can, I mean, I don't think it's, I got told this was a clown shoes opinion on LinkedIn the other day, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know if you use GPT-4 for that comeback, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to 5x the production of a marketer, like right now, depending on what your use cases are and what industry you're in and which tools you're allowed to have access to. I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, I mean, I think an individual could probably perform at the level of 5 people, like for the right use cases with the right tech.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. I think we can only take Q&A over the button there. I don't think people can actually live ask questions. But are there any other questions you guys have in the audience?
Here's one about human workers being essential. That's probably a pretty good one. How do you
Okay.
foresee the role of human workers being essential in developing, improving, and maintaining AI technology? How can businesses ensure that they foster a collaborative environment between you? That's a really smart question. Well done, Mandy. That's very, very good question. Humans have to be in the loop because AIs have no idea what they're doing. Like they're not actually intelligent in terms of the way we would think about it. They have no common sense. They don't know what they're actually saying. They're just predicting words and sequences. And the human needs to be there, and the human needs to have expertise and experience to know if the output is any good from the AI. And then it needs to be able to tell the AI when it's wrong. Now, at the same time, the AIs are really, really good at this stuff. So as a writer, sometimes I'll have it do an outline or a draft or something, and I'll learn something from the way it did it. Like, this is how I'm guiding universities to teach students. Have them write their own and then have the AI write it, and then have them compare the outputs and see what did it do well I can learn from. So I think it's a really smart question, Mandy. I think it's a part where not many people are even thinking the way you're asking there. But I believe that is the future opportunity, is to think about this as like a human plus machine thing. We're going to teach the machine some stuff. We're going to learn some stuff from the machine. And hopefully we're going to become way better at what we do because we're willing to learn.
Yeah. Mandy asked another question. Would AI be able to take the place of Zoom Info or Seamless AI completely in terms of scraping the web for contacts, cell phones, emails, intent, data, etc.? I guess my answer to that would be, really, those are a brand. They already are leveraging the technology. So you'd just be talking about somebody else leveraging it. Now, maybe what we're referring to here is, would it be get to a point where now I could just go to Chat GPT or a certain application, it could even be within Zoom Info, and just say, hey, give me all of this without having to click the buttons and try to filter through things myself. I think it'll get there, but in theory, they are the technology that's already doing that. That's just the brand name behind it, but it could go to that next level where you could chat with it and make it happen.
Yeah, you need access to the data. So unless the data is openly available for these AI agents to go get from the web, then you're not going to be able to reproduce what those companies are doing. They have access to lots of different data points. But that being said, I have friends at Hyperwrite that just did a demo last week where they trained an agent to go to LinkedIn, find the 10 best leads, and then capture that information and dump it into a list. So
that's impressive.
Yeah.
Katie asked, how do you foresee AI impacting the way we need cybersecurity?
Massive problem. I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but I had major cybersecurity clients when I ran my agency, so I know a few things about the industry. Lawyers are going to be really busy with cases about AI for the next decade, and cybersecurity experts are going to have very little sleep for the next 10 years as a result of what AI is going to make possible.
economically, Paul, how do you see AI impacting society as a whole?
So a lot of the top people working in AI research believe in the theory of abundance, that AI will create this abundant society where we have everything we could ever imagine, that AI is going to create time, it's going to create solutions to our biggest problems around climate change and hunger and poverty and all of those things, that AI is our path to solve the things we've never succeeded at solving. So I like to believe if that's the target, that will land somewhere on the path to that AI will have this amazing positive benefit to society. I think in the near term, there's probably gonna be a lot more disruption to knowledge work than people want to admit or even talk about. So I think there's a very real chance we'll lose millions of jobs in the not too distant future, next 1 to 2 years. I think more jobs are going to be created by AI over time. But I think that there's a very real chance that we're just not ready for how good this tech is and it's going to get. And I think once people realize how much time can be saved, the ones that don't have great companies that put employees first and like reinvest in them and reskill them and upskill them and redistribute their resources, they're just going to like take the efficiencies and just cut the extra people. And I hope that's not the case. I think there's paths where that isn't the inevitable outcome. Like I don't think it's imminent that it will happen, but I think it's good to move forward under the assumption that it's a very real possibility that we lose a significant amount of jobs in the next couple of years, and that we start working toward figuring out how do we avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is also that I think the people who already do well in business and who embrace this and put a little time and research and money into this process, they're going to become wildly successful. I mean, I've even thought if you can still charge the same price today, like in the marketing world, right? If a piece of content is worth this much still out in the market, but now you've cut your cost of goods down by 10, right? Tenfold. There's a chance here to make really good money in the short term, but I think it's going to catch up. And I do think that it's going to replace a lot of jobs. And I think that there's kind of two ideas, right? It's almost like there's the people that think it's going to take over the world, and there's somewhat a group of people that are kind of ignoring it like it's a fad and there'll be time to catch up. And what's really become evident to me is I kind of remember your post in November saying, everything changed today. And I thought, what is this all about? And I mean, day one, I was on Chat GPT from following you, but I don't think most business leaders in the general sense, out of the 31 or 32 million businesses in the United States, have any clue what is coming at them right now. And I think they have time because just because it took 30 years to build this $30 million a year business doesn't mean it can't be disrupted in 30 days right now with what's happening. And so definitely I would tell people be excited. If you embrace it, I think you can do really, really well. But you got to be vigilant too. If you're not paying attention, there's going to be a lot of companies that by the time they recognize the opportunity, and that doesn't even mean with their product or output, could be when the competition learns how to sell and market with this and you're a year or two behind, that's big problems for you. Imagine your competition can have 30 to 40 times the conversations an hour that you can. It's going to be pretty hard for you to canvas the marketplace in the same way they're able to, right? That's where the problems are going to come in.
Agreed.
So, well, man, I really appreciate it. This was so awesome. I know we have some unanswered questions.
Yeah, we probably go for another hour with the questions in there. So thank you everybody for putting them in.
We will send out a recording. Again, the links are in there for Paul's podcast, the course, and just the general website. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been great. And look forward to catching up soon, Paul.
Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.